Walking, running, hopping, floating, flying, swimming, teleporting, digging, and even launching themselves like a rocket. How Pokemon move around the world is one of the most essential pieces to survival. Without this, they couldn't find shelter, food, friends, or even escape those that look to make them into a full meal with a side of Slowpoke Tails. I've now officially read the entirety of the Pokecology book, allowing me to finally bring to you how Pokemon travel around the world. Howdy there, I'm Krillic, and welcome to the finale of the Pokecology book, Chapter 4, How Pokemon Get Around. Not a great title for YouTube, so forgive me that I had to change it up, but if you have not watched the previous videos, no worries, you can see those after this one. For now, let's get started with the first page that gives us a massive spread of all the different types of movement that we'll be digging into in the following pages. For most Pokemon, movement is essential to their survival. If they can move over a large distance quickly, they can reach new areas faster, allowing them more time to search for food. They can also catch prey or escape predators more easily. Let's take a closer look at how Pokemon's movement capabilities fit its individual lifestyle, starting with those that move on land. Racing across the land. I see the reference you did there, writers. You saw an opportunity and took it. Searching far and wide, huh? Anywho, Pokemon that excel at running have typically developed long, strong, muscled legs. Among them, there are some that run across the world at astonishing speeds. They give us a phenomenal two-page spread, as we'll see a lot of in this section. Thin-legged Toadstool are the slowest of this bunch, but don't be fooled, as they can still easily outrun any human as they reach speeds of 30 miles per hour or 50 kilometers an hour. Heliolisk isn't much faster, but it stimulates its muscles with electricity to boost the muscles in its legs, enabling it to run 100 meters in 5 seconds, landing it at an estimated 45 miles per hour or 72 kilometers an hour, which also allows it to run across water. It builds up this electricity by opening its frills and basking in the sun. Up next is Cyclizar with a speed of 70 miles per hour or 120 kilometers an hour, going even faster than that thanks to the gular pouch that puffs up to help it maintain posture and the warmth of a human riding on its back that also provides a lift to the Pokemon's spirit. In other words, not only is the lizard kept warm, but the bond between human and Pokemon once again comes in handy. Dashing ahead is Rapid Dash at 150 miles per hour, 240 kilometers an hour, often seen galloping through fields with this fiery mane fluttering in the wind. It can reach its top speed within only 10 steps, which it does have 4 hooves, so that's not going to take long at all. Just for reference, at this point, a real-world horse is only running at an absolute maximum record speed of 55 miles per hour or 88.5 kilometers an hour. That's not the average, that is the apparent fastest we've recorded. So we're getting well past even talking about real-world comparisons. Our Roadrunner representative, though, Galarian Zapdos, has such powerful legs that it can not only run through mountains at over 180 miles per hour or 300 kilometers an hour, but it can also pulverize a dump truck with a singular kick. Even faster than this, though, is Arcanine, known to run over 6,200 miles or 10,000 kilometers in a singular day and night. The fire that burns within it is the major source of this power, so of course it will need to eat plenty of fatty berries. And amongst these Pokemon, we do get to see the legendary beasts. Though Entei and Suicune don't have a specific speed attached to them, meanwhile Raikou and Zeraora are the fastest Pokemon that we are currently aware of, according to this book as well. Both move at the speed of lightning, but Zeraora is able to reach the speed of 450,000 miles per hour or 720,000 kilometers an hour in an instant, making it faster than Raikou. There are other Pokemon that have some incredible speeds that I've covered in their own video, but one of these days I should really remake that old video, as there were a few that I missed, and more that will be added in the future, of course, with the next generation. But we move on to the next section, Pokemon body structures and the various ways they move. There are some species of Pokemon that spend their time in trees or underground. Each Pokemon's body is structured so that way it can move easily in its living environment. There are also Pokemon that move in unique ways that fit their lifestyle or body shape, such as jumping or rolling. Sneasler, within the cold lands of Hisui that are covered in ice, specifically within the Alabaster Icelands, have adapted to be particularly good at scaling cliffs using their long claws. Similarly, Frogadier uses the sticky tips of its fingers and toes to stick firmly to vertical surfaces. It's able to scale skyscrapers with ease and can scale a 2,000-foot or 600-meter tower in a singular minute. So that's like 10 meters every second, just to put that into perspective. I've also always imagined Ferrothorn just kind of floating around, but as we see here, it uses its spikes that are harder than steel to crawl across rock walls and absorb nutrients from the stone as it does so. We're also then shown a much larger scene of a great tree teeming with life of all kinds, alongside the many Pokemon that live on or under the ground that help keep its roots alive. Starting at the top, Apom leap from branch to branch, deftly using its long tail for balance, which is more dexterous than its hands. It will eventually rely on this tail so much that it will evolve to hardly use its normal hands at all, and instead grow 2 more tails to support it. Grubbin may be slower on the ground, and so too Cataractus. It spits sticky threads and winds them around branches, swinging nimbly from tree to tree in a pendulum-like motion. Caterpie, as seen here, have little suction pads on their feet that allow it to tirelessly climb slopes and walls, and Trico has tiny little hooks, as we see on some reptiles in the real world, that allows it to latch onto walls and ceilings so well that it will never fall, even if it's hanging upside down. We then reach the bottom of the tree and find another Grubbin burrowing into the forest floor to make a nest, and moving around this area is Dugtrio. With its hard head, it can dig through any type of ground to a depth of over 60 miles or 100 kilometers. Its 3 heads bob separately up and down to loosen the soil nearby, making it easier for it to burrow. For our singular Diglett, or at least our Alolan version of it, it uses its metallic whiskers to sense its surroundings. They're powerful enough to dig through volcanic rock in this form, but it doesn't like to allow itself to be seen very often, so it just doesn't break to the surface very often either. Meanwhile, a molehill has been made nearby, a Drillbur peeking out before we see another putting both of its claws together to become an efficient drill and rotating at high speeds. It can dig through the ground at approximately 30 miles per hour, 50 kilometers an hour. All of these Pokemon will create an amazing little environment and ecosystem, really, that keeps this tree alive just by them moving around and maybe eating some sap, fruit, and leaves. Decaying leaves will be taken care of or absorbed by the tree, the soil is kept aerated and healthy thanks to the digging of Pokemon, and these Pokemon will overall work together to keep the tree alive, on purpose or not. Also, that Trico will eat some of the bugs if they get a little too high in population. They are hunters after all, and they are not afraid of anything, even if it's something larger or stronger than themselves. Though not every Pokemon walks, runs, or digs, some prefer a more explosive form of movement that we only see in a form of jumping. For example, Pupitar flies around wildly by venting with great force the gas that is pressurized inside of its body. It can hit anything at all, even the ground, at these extreme speeds without a single worry thanks to its incredibly tough body. Apparently, Golem does the same thing, which I never knew, explaining how they actually get back up the mountains that they rolled down. Those stubby little legs can only take them so far, after all. Nimble has a third set of legs folded up, and whenever it is put into harm's way, it is able to use them for an incredible punch of force and leap out of the way, traveling 30 feet or 10 meters in a flash, allowing it to survive a team attack from some squawk ability, as we see here. Speaking of birds, in order for Natu to get its fill of buds from the branches of trees, Natu will use its outstanding jumping power and pluck them from on high since it can't even fly. I actually always joked about them in the past, about them looking like little ping pong balls, but now it really looks like one, and it's actually pretty cute. While a Poplio might swim in water as expected of a sea lion, it will also use the water balloons that it creates to jump higher and higher while performing acrobatic stunts. It seems to have trapped a Rowlet within one of the bubbles, which is a bit unfortunate because typically that is an act preserved, or reserved rather, for prey. And of course, no section about jumping Pokemon would be complete without Spoink. Using its tail like a spring, it also keeps its heart beating by bouncing constantly. If it stops, it dies, so it bounces even while it is asleep. Pretty cursed existence, but you know, hummingbirds are constantly on the move themselves and constantly trying to find food, so I suppose it's not all that different. Up next, we have a slew of rollers, beginning with Graveler, who is noted to be a slow walker. Instead, it rolls to move, and unfortunately, it pays no attention to any object or living being that's on its path, so as it pulls its arms and legs close to it to enhance its rolling ability, and actually, that would also increase, I believe that increases center mass, and there is no centripetal force there, but either way, that just essentially makes it more efficient overall. It's going to roll faster and faster, and we're actually lucky that this Cubone didn't get turned into roadkill and was actually paying attention because, again, we know that Graveler isn't. I do find it weird that Baltoy is included here, but I guess rolling is the closest we would get to describing its movement, as it sticks to others of its kind and they spin around on a single foot to get around. Some even spin on their heads rather than their foot, which there's something about its design while it's upside down that's got me a little bit stumped. It looks kind of like a gourd or something else I just can't put my finger on right now. In a desert, we see some Komala moving around through the use of its log, while Bramlin just uses the wind to get around. This ghostly tumbleweed tumbles across the wilderness with no clue as to where it'll end up, and one was unlucky as they hate getting wet and accidentally rolled through a puddle on its grand excursion. To close this page, we have another classic, as Spheal always travels by rolling around on its ball-like body. When the season for ice flows arrives, this Pokemon can be seen rolling about on ice and crossing the sea. Thanks to its short limbs and rotund body, it's always faster for it to just roll around than it is for it to walk. Even if they're in danger, a Walrein leads the group and stays nearby for their safety. Using their supernatural abilities, some Pokemon are able to get around easier. Alolan Raichu floats about by concentrating psychic power into its tail, riding it like it's surfing and earning itself the nickname Hodad in Alola, which is like saying it's a poser for surfing. It's cute that they made sure to point out that they also love pancakes in the book. Both Espathra and Galarian Rapidash use their psychic power to enhance their running speeds. Our resident unicorn using the psychic power stored in its fetlocks, and Espathra emitting it from the gaps between its frills to generate enough force to propel it forward and sprint at speeds greater than 120 miles per hour or 200 kilometers an hour, which, you're telling me that Espathra is a psychic-powered rocket? I already liked the Pokemon, but now I like it even more, as I imagine a massive burst of light shooting from behind it as it boosts all around on an open field. We start getting a mix of different movements like King Gambit that floats around as it sits, Hitmonlee who can make longer and longer strides as it lengthens its legs with every step more and more, and Jinx who moves to the rhythm of its own beat depending on its mood. As it wiggles its hips with every step, it might accidentally magically entice witnesses to do the same. A number of Pokemon, especially predators, have learned to move without a sound through different means. Persian has lithe muscles that allow it to walk without making any sound, of course, raising its tail as cats are apt to do in the real world as they adjust themselves, balance themselves out, and prepare to pounce at birds like the Starly that has strayed from its flock. Spidops uses its durable, sticky thread to cling to branches and move without sound, taking out its prey before it can be noticed, and confirming through this visual that their rivalry with Scyther is more than just for training, but for a chance at a meal. Nickit and Purloin both have adapted to move silently in different ways. Purloin in a similar way to Persian, while Nickit has soft pads on its feet. They not only fight for territory, but as we see here, steal from each other's stash of food. We're then gifted some bonus silent Pokemon who are able to stay quiet even while flying through the sky, their unique wings once again making them effective predators. Gligar will glide quietly through the air as if it were sliding. It hangs onto the faces of foes using its hind legs and the large pincers on its forelegs. Then it injects the prey with poison. It is currently poised to take down a Furret in this area. Other night flyers then include Rowlet and Noctowl, both bearing soft wings that prevent them from producing sound. Tireless stamina. There are tough Pokemon with lots of stamina that can carry heavy objects and run long distances. Not only are their legs strong, but their bodies are also structured to continuously receive energy. Amongst the walls of a canyon, we see Crustle and Mudsdale. Crustle possesses legs of enormous strength, enabling it to carry heavy slabs for many days, even when crossing arid land. They have territorial disputes over places that have their preferred boulders. I never really thought about it actually, but I suppose they are just bigger Dwebble, and those are just hermit crab bug things. I think they just threw them in there because arthropod kind of situation, so, But as they grow, even in their evolved form, they would still need to find new homes, bigger homes, better boulders that they would need to make for themselves. While Mudsdale can't run at fast speeds, they have excellent endurance. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and are even able to drag a 10-ton load while trudging through mountain roads without rest for 3 days and 3 nights. This is assisted through its legs also being reinforced by mixing dirt and saliva and covering said legs in the mixture. If there's one thing I've learned, good shoes, good bed, good chair. All very important for long-term health, and it seems Mudsdale has one of these on lock at least. A few Pokemon can be seen anime running in an open field, as if it was a Naruto opening, and I'm not joking at all. There is a Railu literally doing the Naruto run here. Like, this little guy can run through the night, clearing mountains and valleys as part of its training, and it is Naruto running the entire time. Meanwhile, Dodrio has more than just 3 heads, but also 3 sets of hearts and lungs too, making it so it is capable of running long distances without rest. This makes it easier for its body to take in energy, fight lactic acid buildup, keep blood flow flowing efficiently, and so much more. Then we have Boltund, who generates electricity and channels it into its legs to keep them going strong, running non-stop for 3 days at a top speed that easily breaks 50 miles per hour or 90 kilometers an hour. Changes in movement. There are Pokemon that change how they move to adapt to the changes in their body after evolving. The way a Pokemon moves may be influenced by the shape of its body or changes in its environment. A Rhyhorn charges forward on all 4 legs, while not being a very bright Pokemon that sticks to flatlands. When it evolves into Rhydon, it walks only using its hind legs, which has now allowed it to expand its habitat onto steep mountains. Its brain developed as part of this. And I'll also say this is the power of the thigh, or also the power of the buttocks. The development of these muscles allowing Rhydon, animals in the real world, and even ourselves to not only grow a great cake, but also use it too. That's not how the saying goes, but I wasn't gonna say the other part. We find something very similar occurring in the Mudkip line, starting on all 4s as Mudkip, standing up as a Marshtomp, then making great use of walking on 2 legs but running on all 4s as a Swampert. While it has developed sturdy legs during its time as a Marshtomp, as it has evolved into Swampert, it now wants to make great use of its new powerful arms as well, and continues to do so in its Mega form. Chansey is seen escaping predation by Arbok, or at least preventing the Arbok from getting its precious, delicious, and nutritious egg, as Chansey has become incredibly adept at fleeing. There's even an entire Poketoon showing how Chansey is just very blobby, malleable, twisting and turning its body while moving at incredible speeds, and even using Minimize as part of the process, all with a smile on its face the entire time, making it my favorite depiction of this Pokemon bar none. Also, look, I love eggs. I bought a 60-pack of eggs for $9, not when eggs were super expensive, and have been eating like 3 or more eggs a day. I love them, don't worry about my cholesterol, I work out a lot, and I love this goofy Pokemon. I'll say poofy Pokemon, which I guess. Just give me the Chansey, let me have one in the real world, please. Lastly, there's Numel, who has to take shelter under trees in order to prevent itself from getting wet. It stores magma within its body, so if it gets wet and its body cools, its body also grows heavy and its movements grow sluggish because that same heat is what fuels its movement. Pokemon that look alike but move differently. There are Pokemon of similar appearance and shape that move in different ways. Perhaps the way they move best suits their build and the environment in which they live. Donphan moves by curling up all 4 of its legs, touching its nose to its tail, and rolling its entire body. Its tusks don't touch the ground as it rolls around. And while we've seen this plenty in animation, I am in love with the step-by-step diagram we get here and the ones we'll get later on. By comparison, we have its Paradox form, beginning with Great Tusk. This mysterious Pokemon was described in an old Paldean expedition journal. Though it resembles Donphan, it runs on all 4s rather than rolling around. Its extremely large tusks may prevent it from rolling, and it never developed that habit. Or at least, it may have not developed that habit yet. Meanwhile, Iron Treads is another mysterious Paldean Pokemon. It looks a lot like Donphan, but its 4 legs can be tucked completely into its body. It moves by rotating only the outer tire-like portion
rather than its torso. This would let it roll around for longer with less effort and likely across many different terrains with greater ease and efficiency. Next, we can look at Sandslash and its Alolan form, both having adapted to different environments, thus forcing themselves to travel by different methods. Regular Sandslash excels at climbing trees with its sharp talons. It also uses them to burrow into the ground. It will even curl up into a spiny ball and roll when it needs to move quickly. Meanwhile, its Alolan form has claws that are thick and tapered, allowing it to push through snow and climb icebergs. Rather than curling up when it needs to move quickly, it just runs on its 2 legs. Its feet now elongated and looking a lot like snowshoes to balance out their weight over the snow so that way they don't sink. And actually, that might also help them move silently. Another variant in region and time even is Sliggoo, whose body is coated in a caustic slime that can melt through anything. It just crawls along sluggishly no matter what situation it's in. Meanwhile, its Hisuian form has grown a metallic shell thanks to the waters of Hisui being rich in iron. It will enter its metallic shell and roll around when it needs to in order to move quickly. I also know that once it evolves, regular Goodra runs around, while Hisuian Goodra will enter its shell that it can control the hardness of, allowing it to bounce and roll as it wishes with enough power to destroy trees. Even our crabs can be studied. Kingler and Klawf look a lot alike due to their claws on each arm. However, Kingler walks sideways while Klawf walks forward. These are developments likely in part due to their hunting methods. For example, Klawf will actually hang upside down on cliff faces and wait for prey to walk by in order to get an easier meal as an ambush predator dropping down right on top of them. Pokemon in flight. Being able to move through the air equates to being able to survey a greater range and moving farther more quickly. What are all the ways Pokemon can fly? Let's take a look. Once again, we get a double-page beautiful spread of all the Pokemon we will be covering in this section, including some powerful legendary Pokemon like Miraidon and Koraidon, and even our Ultra Beast Celesteela, moving through the air. As there are Pokemon with high flying capabilities, flying unrestricted through the sky quickly and over long distances, there are also Pokemon with wings that aren't particularly gifted at flying. Each Pokemon's flying capability is influenced by its lifestyle and traits. But before we do continue, I just want to say thank you for watching. If you're new here and enjoying this so far, I'm confident you'll enjoy the rest and plenty of the deeper dives on this channel. I also want to thank members of the channel. Their support allows me to take the time necessary for these videos and bring everyone quality content. If you want behind the scenes info, early access to videos, and members exclusive videos, become a member for as little as $3 a month. It makes a massive difference. I'm also having a massive, basically, streamathon starting on November 1st, a randomized Pokemon Alpha Sapphire Draw Lock, a Nuzlocke where I draw the Pokemon I catch and evolve, and your donations will not only get you a raffle to get the art from me, but also contributes to my wedding in May. This ring is not just for show, so pop in when the time comes at the least, even if you can't donate. I typically also stream every Friday, by the way, if you want to enjoy more Pokemon content. Lastly, tell me if there's anything you didn't expect to see in this video, or rather this book, or just let me know about your favorite Pokemon. YouTube can't actually read your comments, but I love to. Plus, it still appeases the almighty algorithm alongside likes and hypes, so be sure to do those as well. But enough of all that. Once again, thank you for watching, and on with the video. Beginning with our slowest flyer of the bunch here, Dracloak is capable of flying faster than 120 miles per hour or 200 kilometers an hour. I'm sorry. To start open with saying, like, I scripted this, right? But to say that it's our slowest flyer and it's going 120 miles per hour faster than, no, technically I've been in a plane, so I've gone faster than that, but I think you get my point. It battles alongside Dreepy and dotes on them until they successfully evolve. Our next step is Tornadus in its incarnate form specifically, spouting strong winds from its cloud of energy and tail that are capable of producing storms. It zooms through the sky at nearly 200 miles per hour or 300 kilometers an hour. Skarmory's metallic body is actually very thin and light, allowing it to fly at speeds that match Tornadus, which, yes, I get that flying isn't what Tornadus is supposed to be known for, but I find it hilarious how angry it looks in this visual, as it looks at every single Pokemon around it flying much faster than it is, and it's like, this is bullshit. I am a worshipped Pokemon of the Unova region, and they're all faster than me. Reaching the next tier of speed is Talonflame. Just like the other birds of prey we find in the real world, Talonflame reaches its highest speeds when it is nosediving towards prey. As it scatters fiery embers from the gaps in its feathers, it becomes an even greater threat whose feathers will not burn itself as it reaches nearly 310 miles per hour or 500 kilometers an hour. By comparison, the peregrine falcon in our world is the fastest bird in nosedive, shattering 200 miles per hour or 320 kilometers an hour. Some verified measurements and computer models suggest it can dive at up to 389 kilometers an hour, 242 miles per hour, or even anecdotal or story reports rather than measured reports of 390 kilometers an hour proper. We can think its streamlined body and how it tucks itself in to achieve basically a state of near free fall in order to achieve these speeds. Another step up is the great Golem Golurk emitting unlimited energy from its body, in this case specifically from its arms and legs to fly across the sky at Mach speeds, or rather, its lack of legs as it's just kind of an opening right now. It is at least clocked here at Mach 1, being the speed of sound at 760 miles per hour or 1,225 kilometers an hour. Matching this speed is Garchomp. Its smooth scales reduce air resistance, allowing it to fly incredibly fast as it now resembles a jet plane with a folded body and extended wings. Reaching Mach 2 or twice the speed of sound is Pidgeot. Its gorgeous wings spread widely to intimidate enemies as it races through the skies. Its well-developed chest muscles allow it to create devastatingly strong winds when it flaps its wings intensely. Like, put your arms out and then bring them in like a bird would, and you can see why the chest muscles are super important. Also, something I love to try and exemplify is, if you don't know what the speed of sound is, literally however long it's taking for my voice to reach you is how fast the speed of sound is. It's pretty common sense, but at the same time, to actually sit and think about it and realize it, like if you put your phone or you walked away from your computer or whatever it is and heard me from a room away, that is how fast these Pokemon are moving, or rather twice as fast. And at the top, the fastest flyer in the book is Dragonite. It is capable of circling the globe in just 16 hours. Much like a bee, despite its rotund size, it has incredible flying capabilities, allowing Dragonite to be at an estimated speed of 1,550 miles per hour or 2,500 kilometers an hour, which would mean that it is just barely faster than Pidgeot, at least in their base forms. Mega forms get a little wild. Much like Pokemon with high endurance running over the ground though, there are plenty of high flyers that go the long distance. For example, Kilowattrel are a sea bird that would contest with Wingull, or rather Pelipper, as we know based on real life counterparts. But due to Kilowattrel having a lack of oil in its feathers, it's poor at swimming. Instead, as it inflates its throat sac to amplify electricity, it rides the wind and flies over 430 miles or 700 kilometers in a day. Swanna are similar, but go much farther despite their elegant appearance. They are able to flap their wings strongly and fly for thousands of miles as a group. And while not a measure of endurance specifically, or physically rather, we do find Cottony being swept away by the wind and traveling far and wide. If they get caught up in a hurricane, they have no worries about being injured thanks to their Cottony bodies and instead just get sent to the other side of the planet. The only problem they have then is if they get soggy from the rain, which will stop them from being able to move. Something wild I never knew was that apparently thanks to the efficiency of Gliscor's wings, it can not only soar the skies without making a sound, but if it catches the right faintest breeze, it can circle the globe without flapping even once. Which I have to assume is more that it is able to continually catch faint breezes, manage its own body, and continue its long-distance trek. We continue on with Rayquaza, who has lived for hundreds of millions of years in the ozone layer, never descending to the ground. Instead, it feeds on water, particles, and meteorites in the atmosphere to keep itself energized. Once again, I'm surprised to find out that Fearow are used to carry packages as we see here. Their tough and excellent stamina alongside enormous wings allow this to happen in the first place. And similarly to Cottony, Hoppip's line circles the globe. but once it reaches its final evolution as Jumpluff, it is able to fly freely by maneuvering cotton spores and riding the warm season winds. It will descend to the ground when it catches cold air, otherwise it will just live out the rest of its life, scattering cotton spores until it runs out of them, and then promptly passes away. I do always find it interesting and important to note that most, if not, I believe all, plant Pokemon release spores, and they are all able to breed with each other as the, grass or plant egg category effectively. So these Pokemon are super vital for the environment and ecosystems everywhere because they are the ones that drive the ecosystems forward. And according to a number of Dex entries across main games and side games, especially Pokemon Snap, we find out that they are not just spreading seeds or spores of their own kind, but also of other kinds of plants and plant Pokemon, I would then assume. Moving on though, Tailo are known to dislike cold seasons, so they will migrate to other lands in search of warmth, flying over 180 miles per hour or 300 kilometers a day. And lastly, Chimecho will float on the wind to travel great distances, flying energetically during hot seasons, which I'm pretty sure that's just another trait taken from Furin, which are just the Japanese wind chimes that Chimecho are inspired by. Up next, we get to look into how some predators use their incredible wings to not only survive, but hunt down others. In arguably one of the scariest adaptations, according to me at least, our Megafauna Yanmega is not only capable of transporting an adult in flight, its wing beats can blow down huge trees just when it takes off from the ground, and even cause incredible force damage to the bodies of anyone nearby. They are legitimately one of the scariest Pokemon out there without even needing to use any Pokemon moves whatsoever. Just as we saw in a previous chapter, Crobat is far less capable of walking, but has 4 wings that allow it to fly faster and quieter, so it can sneak up on prey without said prey noticing, such as what we see with this Ursaring, which at first I was shocked by, but when we look at their habitats and the sheer size of Crobat, this isn't nearly as shocking anymore. Up next are Pokemon with underdeveloped flying abilities and how they get around this until they can evolve. For example, Arkin is unable to fly and will instead hop and glide from one branch to another for their fill of prey and fruit. Then there's Volibee, who tries flying around by jumping but often fails. Its butt is protected thanks to the bones that it wears as underwear, so it faces no damage while a Mandibuzz stays nearby, watching over these babies. Transporting others by flight. There are some Pokemon that transport people or other Pokemon as they fly. By using such Pokemon's power, they can move faster and further than they could on their own. It doesn't go in depth here, but this would include Hisuian Braviary, Aerodactyl, Charizard, Latios, Koraidon, and Miraidon. We get to also learn something I at least didn't know, which is that the horns on Miraidon's head transforms into membranes of energy that then allow it to glide through the air. It might have been in like a small snippet in like the instructions on how to make it fly, but it's something I feel like I've at least forgotten. Also, as I'm sure you've heard time and time again, Corviknight are used as Galar's taxi service thanks to their great intellect, flying skills, and strength. Meanwhile, Pelipper are used by smaller Pokemon like Pikachu and Pyukumuku without fear of being eaten to then get around. Although it will also collect food in its bill and transport it back to its nest, so it's a little sketchy in my opinion on whether you can or can't trust it depending on what Pokemon you are. Then again, it might be a bad idea to try and chomp down on an electric type when you are 4 times weak to it. The various ways Pokemon can fly. Not all Pokemon flap their wings to fly, some glide or drift upon the wind, while others use gas or electromagnetic waves. Let's take a look at the unique ways Pokemon can move through the air. Metagross folds its 4 legs when flying as it uses electromagnetic energy. It seems like this is how it's able to concentrate that energy into a closer center mass and make it not only stronger, but also more efficient while looking like a UFO. Sigilyph uses psychic power to fly rather than relying on its wing-like appendages. Some say they were the guardians of an ancient city, while others say they were guardians' emissaries. We do get a glimpse of this in the Lental region as they serve as a warning system for other Pokemon. Meanwhile, Emolga gathers electricity into its membrane and flies around using that energy while scattering electricity, keeping bird Pokemon at a distance, though if it stuffs its cheeks too full, it struggles to fly properly. Meanwhile, Magnemite float in the air by emitting electromagnetic waves from the units at its sides. These waves block gravity, though if they run out of their internal electricity supply, they will no longer be able to fly, but I wouldn't worry about that too much. It has a Magnemite friend nearby to help it out, and even if it didn't, its metallic body would likely attract a bit of electricity towards it whenever a thunderstorm, for example, would happen. So it'll get back up no matter what. Or at least, it'll get back up as long as a Metagross doesn't come to eat it. Didn't think about that. As we look high above the clouds, we see quite a few Pokemon. Amongst the thunder clouds, we will find Tadbulb waiting to get struck by electricity, as it also shakes its tail to also generate electricity. I'm personally 99% sure a good strike of lightning will allow them to evolve, especially as they evolve via a Thunderstone, which is also why their bodies are so malleable and absorb strong impacts as a belly bolt. You kind of have to survive the fall. Above them are the Driftblim, who generates and release gas within its body, controlling the altitude of its drift. The raw material for the gas inside of their bodies are the souls of people and Pokemon. How fitting then that they just float into and above the clouds as if they're going to heaven, right? We see Altaria return from the beginning of the book, camouflaging with the cottony clouds and catching updrifts with its buoyant wings to soar way up into the wild blue yonder while singing gorgeous sopranos. They are able to reach this height by just catching an updraft and not even flapping its wings once. Lastly, while it entered our world via Ultra Wormhole, Celesteela will fly via the high-energy gas being expelled from both of its arms as it literally rockets itself into space and back home to a place that is likely similar to the moon, but that is a story for another video. Different types of wings. Pokemon wings come in all shapes, sizes, and types. While some use them to fly, others use them to adjust their body temperature, generate unique sounds, and more. Let's try comparing the various types of Pokemon wings out there. They open this page with Ho-Oh, whose feathers glow in 7 colors depending on the angle at which they are struck by light. These feathers are said to bring happiness to the bearers of them. This Pokemon is also said to live at the foot of a rainbow. Once again, a group of Swablu are shown, their wings looking the way they do in order to camouflage themselves from predators, though their wings weren't always this color, needing to change likely from blue to white over many generations. Meanwhile, Wingle's bones are hollow and light. By riding updrafts with its long and narrow wings, it can fly without flapping at all. It will fold its wings to rest whenever it makes land, and as we see what I spoke of earlier, its competitor Wattrel is out shocking Arrokuda in the water. When its wings catch the wind, the bones within produce electricity. It dives into the ocean, catching prey by electrocuting them. Moving away from our avian friends momentarily, we have Vibrava. Its wings have not yet finished growing, not making them suitable for long-distance flying, so currently they are more useful for generating powerful ultrasonic waves by vigorously vibrating its wings. After making its prey faint, it dissolves them with digestive juices that it spits out. Caesar won't use its wings for flying typically, instead using them to help regulate its body temperature. Otherwise, it will generate so much body heat that it would become too hot and begin to melt in the heat of battle, which does make me wonder, since it basically is just covered in metal from metal coat or from using a metallic Komodo scale, as that is one of the only places we get to see a wild Caesar. I wonder if it would just become Scyther again once everything melted, or if something worse would happen. One more bug Pokemon before we return to the birds, as we have Frostmoth. It mixes its scales with frigid air, making them fall like snow. Its wings are colder than -290 Fahrenheit or -180 Celsius, and it does this to help camouflage its baby snom and will subsist upon clean meltwater, its favorite thing to drink. Back to not only birds, but legendary birds, Zapdos rubs its feathers together, causing lightning to fall immediately afterwards. It will at the very least make crackling sounds and generate some level of lightning with every single flap of its wings. Then there's Pheasantipity, chirping beautifully while fluttering its wings and scattering pheromones that captivate people and Pokemon, as we see here with this Mightyena, Munchlax, and random Kitakami festival goer. We get a 2-page set of wings and general information on 30 different Pokemon that we can compare the wings of. The info in this section, I will tell you, is nothing more than what we would get from the Pokédex, or just simply something like how Hydreigon uses 6 wings to fly, and nothing else. As such, while I am fascinated by the structures of these wings and seeing these diagrams, it would be incredibly repetitive and boring for you and me to go through each and every one of these. So we're gonna move on. Although, actually, seeing the water droplets on Quackaball being described as decorative water feathers took me a little bit by surprise for some reason, I'll at least admit. Pokemon in the water. From the surface to the deep sea, there are all sorts of underwater environments. Pokemon have developed different ways of moving through water, like growing fins or webbed feet, adjusting their buoyancy, and more. Let's dive in and take a closer look. Of course, we go from one 2-page general spread to our next double spread that covers the different speeds of our water dwellers. We even get to see an interaction where a Palafin in hero form is actively protecting some Finizen who are being attacked by a Sharpedo. As the book notes, swimming through water is harder than moving through the air, but even in the water there are Pokemon that can swim at incredible speeds and stay far below the surface for long periods of time. What skills have helped Pokemon adapt to life in the water? This whole section is dedicated to fast swimmers, starting with a simple bit on Kabutops, who is able to swim as fast as a jet boat. Up next, Hero Form Palafin, hero of the ocean, swims at a speed of 50 knots and saves drowning people and Pokemon. It is estimated to swim at a speed of 58 miles per hour, 93 kilometers an hour, as knots do have to be converted over to these measurements. Swampert also swims as fast as a jet boat. If it senses the approach of a storm and a tidal wave, it protects its seaside nest by piling up boulders. It is so strong that it can tow a large ship while swimming and is estimated to swim at a speed of 62 miles per hour or 100 kilometers an hour. And you might say, hey, Krillix, did the writers make an error in the book? Why is Kabutops rated to be moving slower? Well, that's just because there are many different types of jet boats, and Kabutops does note its knot speed in the Pokédex specifically. So what they must have done is something that I've done in the past, which is here's a specific number, here's the average speed of a, midline jet boat that people use out there somewhere. At the same estimated speed of Swampert is another starter Pokemon, Empoleon. It is not only sleek and smooth for better swimming, but the edges of its wings are sharp and can slice apart drifting ice. Next tier up is Clawitzer, using the gas inside of its body to expel water from the back of its claw to then move at a speed of 60 knots per hour, rocketing itself through the water at what is then estimated to be 69 miles per hour or 111 kilometers an hour. Our second fastest water dweller in this book is Sharpedo. Its special skin helps minimize drag in water. It can swim at speeds of up to 75 miles per hour, 120 kilometers an hour, and it also achieves these speeds by blasting water from its rear end. Though the drawback is its inability to swim long distances. It is built and moves like a torpedo, hence the Sharpedo name. And our top tier amongst these Pokemon, putting the false torpedo to shame, is Barraskewda, rotating its tail fins while being shaped like a proper torpedo. It moves at over 100 knots, which is estimated at 115 miles per hour, 185 kilometers an hour, and it battles fiercely with pods of Finizen over prey. I'm gonna say right now, because it crossed my mind, I can't run that fast. And these creatures are able to swim that fast. I maybe have I haven't swam in a while. I've not tested how fast I can swim. Let's just say I'm fairly athletic. Maybe I've got a good 5 miles per hour. That's kind of pushing it. There's no way. I don't know. Someone correct me. But no matter what, all these creatures are so much faster than me. It is absurd to even imagine being in the same water as them. Turning the page, we have Pokemon using their incredible diving skills. And if you want more on deep sea Pokemon, I have a real fun video that compares the living depths of Pokemon to their real world counterparts, delving into the Hadal zones and trenches of the world. I just can't help plugging that because it was a really fun video. But Piplup is a poor walker, but doesn't mind falling down. A group of them adorably have gathered together and even seem to confront Celio without a problem as they are hunting for other prey. Piplup live along the shore in northern countries and are noted to be a skillful swimmer, diving for over 10 minutes while hunting. Since I already mentioned them, Celio lives in herds on ice floes. Using its powerful flippers, it shatters ice and dives into the sea to hunt prey 5 times a day. On the surface, it sniffs out prey while swimming, then dives deep under the water, as we can see in the diagram. On the same shore, we have some ducklets swimming about, being better at swimming than flying thanks to their webbed feet. It strengthens its body while swimming far below the surface to then eat their favorite food, peat moss. And nearby we see a Azumarill who spends all day in the water. Even though it needs to breathe, it can spend long periods of time in the water by just inhaling a large volume of air. While it hunts for prey, it can use its long ears to distinguish what else is in the water. Another mammal that dives well below the surface is Whale Lord. It breathes through the nostrils it raises above the water's surface, and it can stay underwater for a long time by taking a deep breath before diving to a depth of almost 10,000 feet or 3,000 meters in a singular breath. Along the way, it will meet plenty of other Pokemon like Frillish, who dive to 5 miles or 8 kilometers below the ocean's surface and will return to their homes with prey like Lantern and Magikarp, paralyzing them with its frilly arms. As you do dive deeper into the water, you do need a stronger skeletal structure, or at least a very malleable body, the former of which is what Tortuga has. Based on the studies of its skeleton structure, it can apparently dive to ocean depths over half a mile or 1 kilometer deep. And lastly, there are plenty of deep-sea Pokemon that make use of bioluminescence, as is the case with Finian, who surfaces during the day to absorb sunlight with the pink areas of its skin. When night falls, it moves to the depths and lures in prey with the light from its tail fins, floating and drifting. We're shown a few Pokemon who just go with the flow and float throughout the waters of the world, such as Tentacool, who is not a particularly strong swimmer. It drifts across the surface of shallow seas as it searches for prey. Its body is 99% water, making it blend with the ocean and making it hard to see, but it will shrivel up if it's washed ashore. At least if it manages to get back into the water, it will rehydrate and be back to normal. Otherwise, Wiglett here is a predator and might just eat it. We see a posse of Phione who use their flotation sac atop their head to drift languidly on the sea in warmer waters, their bodies also blending in very well. In fact, this is just what we're going to see a lot of. Water Pokemon having blue bodies to blend in better with the depth of water that they normally reside in. And while its tail may bob on the surface, Marill dives beneath the water to feed on aquatic plants. The tail itself is oil-filled, making it lighter than water, and is a result of the nutritious food that Marill has been able to obtain, such as aquatic plants. But we both know it will likely eat more than just that. Then we find Omanyte, swimming by twisting its tentacles about as its air-filled shell helps keep it buoyant at levels it desires. If you wonder how it works, typically if we compare it to a real-life, had it right behind me, Ammonite, it would have closed off the chambers and only have its most recently created 2 openings. I can't remember off the top of my head if Ammonites actually stored water, or rather air, in their shells in any capacity, which they might have. Again, I don't remember, correct me please. But it seems Omanyte for sure may not at least close those off and instead fill it with air as it gets larger and larger and builds the entire larger shell. In the Learn More section, we're posed the question, straight or turn? Each Pokemon has a way of moving forward that suits them best. Will they go straight or turn? And this is something that allows Pokemon to efficiently hunt prey, escape predators, and survey their environments. We start with Arrokuda, who swims as straight as an arrow, only being able to swim quickly in a straight line as a charged-down prey with a sharply pointed jaw. The ones that become sluggish from overeating are the first to be targeted by flocks of Wattrel. Clauncher moves around by jetting water through detonated gas that accumulates in its claw, specifically its right pincer, which is much larger and throws it off balance, making it terrible at swimming in a straight line. This would at least help it fire a shot, then get a brand new angle on foes rather quickly, kind of showing as I rotate in my chair how that recoil would work. Meanwhile, Spinda has staggering and unsteady steps that seem straight, at least to it. It's kind of like a, drunk panda, but is obviously a teeter-tottering dance to all of us, hindering the aim of foes like Lanoon, who only run in a straight line and reach 60 miles per hour or 100 kilometers an hour by doing so. Spinda also, moving around like that is going to throw anybody off. Our birds of prey also have different methods to be most efficient at obtaining prey, like this Cubone. Mandibuzz will fly in circles, keeping an eye out for weakened Pokemon, with Cubone being their favorite, while Talonflame will zoom directly at prey as they reach nearly 310 miles per hour, as we talked about earlier. Transporting people and Pokemon. Some large Pokemon that are good at swimming can transport people and other Pokemon. With their help, even Pokemon that can't swim very well are able to reach new areas. Long ago in the Hisui region, there was someone who traveled by riding on Baskin Legion. Meanwhile, in the modern day, we see plenty of Pokemon that continue to help others out. Lotad looks like an aquatic plant serving as camouflage, no longer just for itself, but also for the safety of small Pokemon like Pichu and Wynaut. Even Bulbasaur, as we can see within Pokemon Snap. So it's a bit stronger than it looks. It will ferry them across the water and has no qualms about any dirty Pokemon stepping foot on it, as its leaf repels dirt and mud. A Clodsire may live at the bottom of ponds and swamps, but will carry Paldean Wooper on its back and ferry them across the water from shore to shore. And oh my lord, there are tons of Wooper here. Like, I always figured there would be a few of them, maybe 3, maybe 4, I don't know, but 13 of them on or around it? That's insane. This is very important because they don't spend as much time in water anymore, which has resulted in their new regional form and likely took away some swimming ability based on this info. In a similar manner, within Arctic regions, we find Avalugg carrying a slew of Bergmite as it swims. Bergmite usually live on mountains, but they can ride on the back of an Avalugg to cross seas and move to new habitats. While on the move, they secure themselves to Avalugg's back by freezing their feet in place. This will also help in the event that a Pokemon tries to attack them and Avalugg needs to move quickly. As mentioned, Pokemon will help us as well. What seems like what may have been a drowning boy has been saved by a Floatzel making use of its flotation sac. It inflates and deflates it at will for buoyancy, which reminds me of how flotation devices work when scuba diving. If you're looking to stay out of the water but go across it, maybe make some friends with some Lapras who are very intelligent and can understand human speech. They love swimming with people on their backs and are protective of other Pokemon. I love that we get to see Squirtle and Pikachu here, reminding me once again of the Lapras that saved a Squirtle within Pokemon Snap from a Sharpedo hunting it down. The various ways Pokemon can swim. Swimming Pokemon use their bodies efficiently to generate the power to move forward. Though many Pokemon use their fins, others paddle with webbed feet, propel themselves along by jetting out water, and more. Pokemon can use all sorts of methods to move through the water. These are some very simple diagrams, so I'll be sure to try and get as many proper visuals from the animated series and shorts for this part so you can actually fully visualize it. Pokemon that move their bodies or fins up and down include Dugong, Finizen, Dondozo, Vaporeon, and Primarina. Others twist their bodies like Huntail, Electros, Wishcash, and Melodic. This should already begin to tell you why they do this, and it's based on their body shape and structure. Where are fins placed? Do they have short or long bodies? What size fins or flippers do they have, or do they not have any at all? Maybe they just have a tail fin. These are all things that help us understand why they have to use different muscles or different body parts in different parts of their bodies to move, and helps us understand where they may hide, how they may defend themselves, how they hunt, and so much more. Some stouter Pokemon flap in order to move, including Kyogre, Tortuga, and Anorith. Then those with a strong backside or tail move their bodies or fins left and right, much like Feraligatr and Veluza. Our examples don't end there though, as we have paddlers, Inteleon and Poliwrath swimming like people, Quaxley using its strong legs and webbed feet that allow it to swim easily even in fast-flowing rivers, and Golduck, who bears large webbing on both hands and both feet, scooping through water in order to move forward. And as a side, swimming is a bit odd, because it's something where the more you push, the more force you can output or water you displace efficiently while streamlining your body, you can then effectively move faster, as you are quite literally pushing yourself forward. If I remember properly, if you were to try and swim in molasses, the force needed to push forward is literally impossible. This is because it is non-Newtonian, meaning how thick it is will change when you try to push or squeeze it. So literally no matter how hard you push, you will never move because it adjusts to what you've done while water does not. Crazy stuff. Paldean Aqua breed Tauros will rotate its tail and jet water from its horns to adjust the direction as it kicks as well during swimming, all coming together to push it forward and allow it to swim in an incredible fashion. It even has a high body fat, which allows it to float very easily.
Blastoise could do something very similar by using its cannons, and under the water, Cloyster will swim by swallowing water.
Then jetting it out towards the rear. It will also use the pressure built up to fire spikes at those approaching it. And outside of the spikes, this is no different than how we can expect some bivalves to move. Shocking that SpongeBob didn't lie to you about this back in the day, isn't it? Continuing underwater, there are other Pokemon who use purely propelled motion to move around. A Starmie rotating its body, Weasel rotating its tail so it could also slice clinging seaweed and continue to move freely unabated, and Barraskewda rotating tail fins. Plenty of Pokemon skim and skate the surface of water as well. They may do it through speed, strength, or some other kind of special ability they have developed in their form. Keldeo shoots water from the base of its hooves to travel across the water as if skating and uses them in battle. Suicune is seen dashing across the water, while Gholdengo surfs on the waves, and Surskit simply stands atop the water with ease. This little water strider simply emits oil from the tips of its feet to achieve this, and primarily feeds on microscopic organisms in ponds and lakes. But much farther below the surface of the water are lurkers, Luminion who crawl on the seafloor using the two fins on its chest, patterns glowing on its fins to attract prey to it. Meanwhile, Relicanth is built tough with rock-like scales to withstand the water pressure at great depths. It also walks on the seafloor using its pectoral fins and has not changed forms in 100 million years because it has always been, and always will be, perfect. Up next is a nice 2-page diagram comparing Pokemon size and movements. The way a Pokemon moves is strongly linked to its size. Larger Pokemon tend to move slower, whereas smaller Pokemon often make more frequent, rapid movements. They show us how all this occurs from the side view. For example, for every flap of a large Corviknight's wings, a small Spearow must flap about 2 times. 2 steps for Girafarig is 3 for Ponyta, and 2 rotations for Electrode is about 5 for Spheal. These are rough estimates, and I know I've seen a number of people on the internet pointing out that Electrode and Spheal are a little off, but again, estimates. Plus, I'm sorry, but Spheal is not a perfect sphere like Electrode is, plus it is baby that still has limbs to tuck in. It takes some energy to roll fast and keep your limbs at your center. So I'm not going to argue that Electrode is slightly faster based on the book's estimates comparing to other people double checking it. I mean, throw a ball and then throw a smaller ball that has limbs on it. I don't know, like glue some baby doll limbs to a random ball. That sounds horrifying. Don't do that. Lastly, Gyarados makes 1 undulation through the water, while Dratini must make about 2. Pokemon that know where they are and where they're going. There are Pokemon that can arrive at their destination without having any landmarks to guide them, while some other Pokemon can act as guideposts in the wild. Pidgey has an extremely sharp sense of direction. It is capable of unerringly returning back home to its nest, however far it may be removed from its familiar surroundings. Even if Tranquil can't see its trainer, it can always return back regardless of the distance separating them. And you might be wondering how this is even possible, and between these Pokemon and the rest we'll soon discuss, it is a slew of different things. Sights, odors, sounds, geomagnetic or electromagnetic forces, and waves that many animals can pick up on and use. So take those ideas and many other abilities and ramp them up to 100 to see why Pokemon can be even more astounding in terms of their ability to return exactly where they want to. Ampharos' tail tip shines brightly and can be seen from far away, acting like a beacon for lost people. It can be seen in space, and in the old days, it was used to send signals to others very far away. Manaphy are born on the cold seafloor and will swim great distances to return back to its birthplace no matter where it currently resides in the ocean. Basculin live in frigid seas, forming schools and sharing food among themselves. When the time comes, they return to the river they were born in. Even if it escapes out to the vast ocean, it will return back home one day. Then we get a big diagram of Pokemon in a rocky area and underground. Nosepass that always points north. Tinkatuff's metal hammer that is unfortunately being pulled in by the magnetic power of Nosepass's nose. Better watch out, Nosepass does eat iron after all. Underground, Onix has a magnet in its brain that acts like a compass to ensure it doesn't lose direction while tunneling. As it grows older, it becomes increasingly rounder and smoother and will eventually naturally evolve into Steelix. We see some Diglett moving around, and then Dunsparce that never get lost in their own nests because they can smell the very dirt itself and distinguish it from the rest. Otherwise, it just bores through the ground backwards with its tail. And we have the final pages of this book, a big final in-closing page that I'm just gonna look over and read directly from. Thank you so much for reading this book all the way to the end. Did you enjoy learning more about Pokecology? In this book, we have the chance to dive into the behaviors, ecologies, and morphologies of Pokemon and explore them from various perspectives with vivid illustrations. We got the chance to see how Pokemon interact in complex ways with one another and their astonishing abilities that help them move freely across land, sky, and sea, ultimately showcasing the numerous ways that they live in the wild. Perhaps the content surprised you or revealed things you'd never imagined before. Some of you might even be finding out that you're now seeing Pokemon in a brand new light. The ecologies we've described in this book are largely based on Pokédex entries from the core series of Pokemon video games, as well as careful observations of actual Pokemon movements, appearances, and more. When you look back over the entire series of Pokemon video games, the Pokédex contains data on over 1,000 Pokemon and more than 7,500 descriptions of how they live. These Pokédex entries help capture each Pokemon's behaviors, environmental adaptations, and complex ecosystems in rich detail, painting a vibrant picture of the Pokemon world. We wanted to help explain this complex world in a way that would easily bring it to life for readers. And so this book applied perspectives used in studying real-world organisms to explore Pokemon ecology. Many Pokemon exhibit the same behaviors that we see in real-world organisms, such as employing strategies to avoid predators or developing skills that allow them to search out food. Even beyond these, key concepts like the relationship between body size and how a creature navigates through the world, or how competition impacts species that share a food source, are essential for understanding real-life ecology too. By examining Pokemon ecology through such lenses, we were able to uncover patterns, similarities, and connections from the many individual Pokédex entries, which hopefully allows for a deeper and more enjoyable understanding of the Pokemon world. In the end, organizing Pokemon ecology into all these topics required careful review of many Pokédex descriptions and dedicated observations of Pokemon's physical traits to understand the ways in which they move. Overall, these efforts are what helped us observe and learn how Pokemon live. In our world as well, researchers build knowledge about living organisms through steady observation and analysis, all carried out from particular perspectives. But the joy of discovering something unexpected through such painstaking processes is immeasurable. We hope that all of you now feel inspired to observe and explore the mysterious creatures known as Pokemon. In addition to the countless living creatures around you every day, be curious, make your own discoveries, take your own first steps toward becoming a professor yourself. That is technically the end, but not the end. There's a learn more section right afterwards. But literally, I have been working with like ecology in Pokemon for what, 2-3 years now, and it's so rewarding. It's so rewarding, and it's so redeeming. I can't think of the right word, cathartic even, to see that this book even exists, right? Like, I literally have the book right in front of me, you know, to know that this book exists, to know that I was able to read it, to know that, you know, did people sit down there like, there's ecology in Pokemon? And it's like, yeah, I've been talking about it before they announced this book, before the book released, and I've been finding all these different things that exist, and then going back into the anime and the movies and the manga and the games and being like, oh my god, this has existed since the very, very beginning. And I don't mean like, oh, it existed in like generation 2. No, it has existed since the first chapter of the manga. It has existed since the very first games. It has existed from the very beginning, from before it all existed in the first place, as the original creator sat down and would hunt bugs and enjoy wildlife and everything else. And then that is what helped inspire the creature capture game that we play nearly 30 years later. And I do not think I would be nearly as into Pokemon as I am if it did not have such deep ecological, historical, religious lore, for lack of anything else I'm able to say. It's beautiful, and it makes me every day do what they want us to do, the writers of this book, which is look at the trees. I walk, you know, my dog every day, and I get to see the trees and the leaves, the beautiful sun. I get to see foggy days and rainy days, snow that comes up to my knees some days, and so much more. And I get to enjoy it. And I get to wonder, what are the animals doing? How are they hiding in their dens? Where are they going when they can't fly anymore? How deep in the trees are they? What are they eating? What plants? What bugs? What other mammals? What frogs? So on and so forth. What are they doing ecologically to survive? And what happens when they do pass away? Who's there to clean it up? All of our detrivores and all of our scavengers that come in and make a massive difference in our world. And I love it. And I get very emotional regarding it because nature is my second love. Bringing entertaining, stories and everything else is my first love. But nature is my second love through and through. And I'm very, very lucky, and I work really hard, and I'm very happy I get to work really hard to talk about all of this to you and anybody else who listens to me, because goodness gracious, I'm sorry that you have to listen to me for so long. I'm sorry for all the people who, I'm grateful, but sorry that you do listen to me, not have to, when you go to bed, when you listen to me throughout the day, work, so on and so forth, especially my friends who listen to my videos and listen to me weekly as we talk and so on and so forth. It's just, I don't know. I think this book is really special, and I want to see more like it. And if they're not going to make it, I got to figure something out legally. But even though I didn't type it up on my teleprompter, I am going to at least read the rest of this stuff. So I'm sorry if I'm not looking directly at you for the rest of this, but you bear with me, because we have the Learn More section on evolution in the world of Pokemon and our world. This is not scripted, so we're just going to go off the fly. The word evolution exists both in our world and the world of Pokemon, but the way it works is completely different. Read on to learn more. Evolution in the Pokemon world is when an individual grows, its body and its abilities do change. We get to see Cubone and Marowak, of course, at the very end here, as Cubone has been in so many different scenarios throughout the entirety of this book. Finally, after, I guess, surviving all of these different scenarios, evolves into Marowak at the very end, as its shed tears has made it stronger, and now that it has overcome the sadness and loss of its mother, it has grown tough. Its tempered and hardened spirit is now not easily broken in its Marowak form. And it says here, Cubone has been on many adventures in this book. Now it has finally evolved. That is adorable. Oh my god, that is adorable. So it's been the same Cubone the whole time. Why does that make me emotional? That shouldn't make me emotional. Why am I such a baby? But evolution in our world. When living creatures evolve in our world, the changes in their bodies and behavior occur over generations. As an example, let's take a look at how creatures with big mouths evolved. Are you talking about me? Within the population of a certain species, there are slight differences in the shape of each individual's mouth. After a change in the environment, only hard foods became available. It's easier for individuals with big mouths to survive, because they can break open hard foods with ease, and so they have lots of offspring. The children inherit the big mouths of their parents, and the number of individuals with big mouths increases. After a long period of time, many individuals in the group possess big mouths. I'm not gonna say anything. And the very last page we get is let's learn more about Pokemon. Did you learn anything new about Pokemon and the way they live by reading this book? Use the following Pokecology research worksheets to jot down your findings in your own words. There are so many more Pokemon and Pokedex entries that weren't covered in this book. We hope you have fun learning about whichever Pokemon interests you. And I love what they're doing here. I have not shared this enough, but I love field notes. I love field notes with sketch diagrams on them. I love the Pokedex in Legends Arceus, at least the sketchy version of it, not the one that we actually have. I read so many monster compendium books, even as far back as elementary school, where I got to see that, where it showed the monster as a sketch, it showed their habits, what they looked like, what they eat, everything. And I think that has only made me love Pokemon even more, because at that time in my life, even though I had played Pokemon Crystal at an earlier point in my life, I had fallen out of Pokemon. We can blame poverty and just, not being able to afford literally any video game at that point until, like, I don't know, a few games here or there, and hardly seeing TV at all. PBS Kids, thank you. I got to read a lot of books, and those, like, special books of field notes still hold so much dearly inside of my heart, and I want to see more of that in, like, the Legends franchise or Pokemon in general. Like, Tracy Sketchit doing it in the anime is amazing, for example. But that's really it. This was a lot of fun for me to read through. While most of the info is directly from the Pokedex or info I knew, the illustrations were phenomenal. The organization of the info was perfect, and it's something I am happy I could spend the time digging through. Again, as someone obsessed with ecology and explaining it through Pokemon amongst everything else I can about our world, this has only sparked more ideas regarding subjects I desperately need to cover. Literally, while going through this, I didn't say it out loud, but I thought of the one page in the previous chapter of poison equal purple that they had on their Learn More section, and I'm like, okay, well, water Pokemon blue, grass Pokemon green, poison Pokemon purple. How do you get dragons? I mean, technically, I guess you get gold, or there's a lot of blue in dragons also. But then, you know, what about the rest of the typings? How does color determine the type of a Pokemon, and how does that relate to ecology and telling other Pokemon to stay away or come closer because we're friends, right? So, like, the ideas are constantly exploding, but those are all for a different day. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new and haven't subscribed yet, somehow watching the final video of this series and haven't watched the rest, first off, go watch the rest of them. But also make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on all the other deep dives I do. I want to thank members of the channel that you do see on screen right now. Their contributions ensure I can take the time to make quality content for everyone. If you want behind the scenes info, early access to videos, and members exclusive content, become a member for as little as $3 a month. It makes a massive difference. I'm also, again, having a massive, basically streamathon starting November 1st. A randomized Pokemon Alpha Sapphire Drawlog, a Nuzlocke where I draw the Pokemon, and your donations will not only get you a raffle to get the art from me, but also contributes to my wedding in May and a number of other prizes. So pop in when the time comes, at the least, even if you can't donate. Lastly, let me know any final thoughts you might have about this book. I love reading your comments, and they also appease the almighty algorithm alongside likes and hypes, so make sure you do those as well. One of the best comments from this past week is from Skyrogue, who not only commented on the previous video that I did covering this book, but specifically had dialogue of the Flygon and Crocodile in my thumbnail, which I still need to draw the thumbnail for this. No idea what I'm doing. Can you believe they still won't give me a Mega or make me Bug Dragon? And then Crocodile says, give it time. Too good to at least not try to have fun with the voices here or there. But with that then, as always, goodness, thank you so much for watching. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Don't do anything I would do. Please be nice to each other. I love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye! That just made me sad. I'm not going to be able to cover anything else with this book anymore.